In a world where time is not just money, but life itself, one man holds the power to defy the system. Will Salas, a young man struggling to survive in a poverty-stricken ghetto, is thrust into a deadly game where every second counts. As he battles against the wealthy elite who hoard immortality, Will discovers a shocking truth that could change everything. This is how it all begins. The movie opens up with a voiceover that explains the state of the world, where time has become the main currency for survival, literally, and it is all thanks to advancements in technology that made people stop aging at 25. There is a catch, however. After reaching 25, a person is genetically engineered to live only one more year. You can earn time by working, but you also spend it for goods. Thus, when your time runs out, you die. The movie shows an interesting take on the narrative of lives depending on overarching technology. The main character of the story is Will Salas, a young man living in Dayton, a poor ghetto in the southwest USA. He lives day by day, trying to make a living, just enough to pass a day or two. The currency is shown on every person's forearm, a luminous green digital clock counting down. You can also give time to or take time from another person by grasping hands and interfacing. Will works at a metal stamping plant, making shiny cassettes, but notices that he is paid less, and after work meets with Boral, a friend of his, in a bar. They see a man treating everyone to drinks, hence drawing attention to his arm, which shows that he is 116 years old. Shortly after, the Minutemen, a criminal gang, shows up to forcibly take the man's time. Fortis is the leader of the gang, and while everyone at the bar scatters, Will helps the man escape and finds an old building where they hide. The man introduces himself as Henry Hamilton, who tells Will about the time is currency system and how the rich only get richer and the poor are the ones that die eventually. Henry, however, says that he is tired of living for so long and offers his time to Will, who respectfully denies it. Unwilling to not abandon the depressed man, Will offers to stay with him until morning, and during this time, while in his sleep, Henry passes his time to Will. He wakes up with 116 years worth of time left to live, with a message that tells him to not waste it. Will sees Henry seated on the edge of a bridge, but does not get to him in time to stop him from dying, and is instead seen on a security camera, pointing toward him being the prime suspect in the death of Henry. Will meets with Boral, and as thanks for him being a very good friend, he gives him a decade, but is warned that it is dangerous for him to stay in Dayton with that much time on his hands. Wanting to take his mother to New Greenwich, he goes there by himself, and after passing 4 toll booths with progressive fares, he arrives at the gleaming and modern city center, New Greenwich. He cleans up and is ready to dine at a nice restaurant where a young lady notices him. The body of authority, the timekeepers, found the body of Henry, while Raymond, one of the main police officers in the movie, examines the footage and is surprised to see Will, who proceeds by telling them that he does not know Will, but rather his father, Senior Will Salas. And this is where the plot interviews Sylvia Weiss, daughter of the richest man alive, Philippe Weiss, who is practically immortal. Will meets Philippe at a casino shortly after, and at a high-stakes poker game, Will manages to win everything and come out as a victor with 1,000 years to his life. Impressed, Philippe invites Will to his mansion for another party, where Will meets up with Sylvia once again, and convinces her to swim with him in the pool. The two then clean up and are ready to meet the timekeepers, who are there to confront Will. The movie is practically an allegory in which the quoted "time is money" phrase is presented in the most brutal way possible, with the previously mentioned poker scene possibly being the most suspenseful scene of them all, because when you go all in, you don't go broke, you simply die. Raymond takes back the 1,000 years from Will because he does not believe his story. Will then takes Sylvia hostage and escapes from the mansion, and after a short chase, Will manages to throw Raymond off their trail. When the two return to Dayton, they activate the Minuteman's trap. While unconscious, the gang discovers that Will is worth nothing because he has little time left, but takes Sylvia's time worth a decade. Sylvia panics when she sees this, and the two go to see Boral, hoping that he might help them, but instead, they find that he has died from drinking. Will then scrapes for time and calls Philippe and demands a 1,000-year ransom for his daughter. Raymond, after listening to the entire conversation, warns Will not to make the same mistake as his father, who on the other hand finally finds out that his father was not stealing time, but something much more serious. His father was an arm fighter with a trick to win time contests. The next day, the ransom is still unpaid, but Will lets Sylvia go and gives her a gun to protect herself. The two kiss each other, and Raymond nearly shoots unsuspecting Will, but is met by a bullet fired from Sylvia's gun. Will then gives Raymond 4 hours of his time and takes his car. The two learn that they are now wanted people, with a 10-year reward put on their heads. Injured, Raymond somehow manages to get Philippe and tell him that he is not to interfere in the search, as he will be put under arrest because of his daughter's actions. At a motel, Will and Sylvia get closer, but sense something and manage to escape Raymond and his squad after bribing a bus driver. Fortis and his gang gather civilians, and one of them tells him where he saw the two runaways. Fortis finds Will and challenges him to an arm fight, and as the two lock arms together, Will's time runs down fast and uses his dad's trick to reverse the flow, pulls a gun from his boot, kills the henchman, and times out Fortis. Sylvia returns home, distracting everyone in order for Will to sneak up on Philippe. Under gunpoint, Will and Sylvia take Philippe to his vault, where they find a single cassette with 1 million years. After locking him in his office, Will and Sylvia return to Dayton and pass the cassette to Maya, the little girl at the beginning of the movie to whom Will gave some of his time. As they are about to run out of time and Raymond catches up to them, Will notices that Raymond is a Dayton homeboy, an honest cop just doing his job, and before they can talk things over, he runs out of time before Will and Sylvia's eyes. The Daytons stop work and march toward New Greenwich. Watching the news, the timekeepers decide that their jobs are finished and are getting ready for what is yet to come. Will and Sylvia, on the other hand, with a 100-year bounty on their head, pick up guns and pull up in front of a large institution, ready to make their biggest time heist. That being said, a great deal of this movie is assembled from standard elements. There is Will, the modern-day action hero, who is paired with a beautiful young woman and must drag her along with him as the two are pursued by gunfire. The setting of opulence is also present because of the rich, and the villain of the story is elegant, well-mannered, and expresses himself with just the right amount of cruelty. There are also chases and so on. However, the original element that works for this movie is the idea of timekeeping, a framework for everything that is showcased in the movie, leaving Henry Hamilton the only character of personal interest in the movie. There are questions unanswered as well. For instance, the mechanisms of timekeeping, or how human life is stored up in what looks curiously like VHS cassette tapes. Justin Timberlake, on the other hand, with this movie continued to impress and show the world that he's a great actor with a lot of screen presence. Subscribe for more videos like this, and turn on the notifications so you never miss any of them.